SACP Central Committee and Political Bureau member Yunus Carrim, a former communications minister, joins us now to speak to us about the life, the works of Dr Frene Ginwala. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr Carrim. Perhaps just to first hear your own personal views of not only hearing the news, but just reflecting back on what Dr Ginwala has given us as a nation.
Well, firstly, good evening to you and the viewers. And on behalf of the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Solly Mapaela, and the Central Committee and Party as a whole, we obviously express our deepest condolences to the Ginwala family, her close friends, relatives, and so on. I obviously didn't know Frene Ginwala personally before 1990. I got to know her particularly after 1994. And obviously in the 4 years or so before then, in going to meetings at Shell House. Now, I've been a member of Parliament since then, and since 1998 I've chaired committees in Parliament, various committees. And of course, there have been several speakers, amongst them very prominent people, she amongst them, but there's also obviously Baraka Mbete, for example, at one stage was Max Sulu, and there was Gwen Mashlangu and many others. Each of them had some weaknesses. She stood out because of the historical period in which she assumed the speech of the National Assembly. It was a particularly challenging time. It was the first time we came to power and we entered Parliament, and it's certainly true that Frene was well trained academically. She's a lawyer, and she had a PhD, and she was, of course, head of research in the ANC, and she served in president all the time of office. But having to take over this parliament, remember the 4 years before 1994, she was very preoccupied in Shell House and dealing with bringing the ANC to fruition. And we, of course, came to parliament with a very wide variety of social forces. It wasn't just the ANC that she was familiar with since 1960. She had to also try to cohere an ethnic cause that was made up of SACP, COSATU, SANCO members, and broader left democratic movement members. It also included people who came to the head in 1990, which you might remember, was the Popular Front for there was Labour Party people and so on. It was a broader church. And she and her fellow elites were used to, who were based in exile. There were the UDF people, the MK, and the former ANC exiles, the Committee on Ground, and so on. So she had to bring some degree together with the chief of the time, unity in the corpus. But she represented the parliament as a whole, and she stood out for that. As chair of committee, I think we've also respected her focus on independence of the legislature and the important role that chair and parliament committees played in consolidating and advancing our democracy.
Mr. Carrim, I'd like to apologize to our viewers because the quality of our line is not the clearest. One, understanding obviously the times that we live in, load shedding and how it's impacting our network.
Yes, but I've got load shedding here. Yeah.
But I just want to just listen to some of what you're saying. I know she was a formidable person, and as you mentioned, the wide spectrum of the work that she's done across various sectors. She was never afraid to tackle an issue or person head on if she felt passionately that they ought to be corrected or, better informed about issues. When at first did you notice this character in her and admire that strength that you spoke about?
Well, when I first began to go to Shell House, I served for a while as the ANC Midlands, what is Natal in Midlands, communications officer, and I sometimes went to Julia, and she attended some of those meetings. She was a very strong personality. She could be quite imperious as well. She had a certain sort of, authoritarian-like streak, which was necessary, especially when she took to Parliament's role as a speaker. So in some senses, her perceptions of the role of Parliament as independent also was related to her personality. She herself, while being a very loyal and committed ANC member and later leader, she was also quite independent within the framework of commitment to the ANC. And she was very encouraging of chairpersons taking a strong strident role. You see, she carried a certain political pedigree, if you like. She was deeply rooted in the struggle and widely respected, not only within the ANC and broader movement circles and EGM, internationally too. I mean, she represented the ANC, as you must know by now. I'm sure many other commentators and representative parties have said so in the international forum. So she's very experienced. She had that gravitas. You see, in that parliament, you'll recall, you had very powerful ministers, and the president was Madiba, no less. And you had Thabo Mbeki there, Cyril Ramaphosa for a time, and you had senior NEC members as ministers. Now, you had to have somebody with a gravitas, the force, the political, let's say, credibility, the struggle era history that she had, to be able to command the respect that she did. And she was respected across all political parties. And what helped too was she had a very good parliament, a very good secretary, Mr. Sendisa Ntanyana, who sadly passed away last year. He was a veteran too of the ANC, highly dignified, very polite, very humble, and very uniting, and very understanding and very empathetic. So in a way, if you put the both of them together, they complemented each other. Mr. Ntanyana had a much more, let's say, for ordinary MPs and staff and so on, which was his role anyway. And she was slightly more, let's say, she was slightly more, she was a bit austere in her own way, but it was necessary. And look, all parties respected her. And when she moved on from serving the 2 terms that she did, many of them did express their regret that she was moving on. But she was replaced by very good speakers as well. She was unique in a way. She is particularly remembered because she played the role that she did at the time that she did as our first Speaker of the Parliament. And she was necessary. Actually, it's very interesting. At that time, we elected in the caucus, wasn't appointed by Lutulia, the Speaker. And she stood for elections in the caucus. The other candidates put forward that somebody was having it inside the country to be current Minister of Public Enterprise, Praveen Gordhan. And we voted. And because of her experience outside the country, and particularly also that she was a formidable female, and the feeling was the President and Deputy President, the ANC for the first Deputy President, and of course the second Deputy President was from the National Party, the clerk, and a lot of ministers who were males. The stress of having Parliament chaired the National Assembly as a Speaker by a woman. She was a hard choice. She was fully supported not just by the women, but also many men. So she, interestingly, was elected the first time, and then the ANC took to ensuring greater representativity across gender and ethnic and racial divides by appointing people and ensuring the geographic representation of the country in leadership positions. Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There's SACP Central Committee and Political Bureau member Yunus Carrim also weighing in on his tributes to Dr Frene Ginwala. The AC Women's League also just releasing a statement describing her, Dr Frene Ginwala, as a devoted leader who made an indelible contribution to not only the liberation struggle and the process of reconstruction and transformation in democracy, but also on the role of women as well.